A notorious group set up in the 1970s which campaigned to legalise sex between adults and children. A review is now investigating claims that taxpayer money was used to fund the Paedophile information exchange, also known as P.I.E. Some of its members, among them convicted sex offenders, are unrepentant about their views. Our social affairs editor Jackie Long has been investigating, and be warned, her report does contain views which many people may find highly distressing.
Industrial strife and civil rights, the 70s were fertile ground for radical change. And as women and gay campaigners fought for equality, another group seized their moment. This is the magazine of the Paedophile Information Exchange, with all the hallmarks of an amateur publication put together by enthusiasts. But their special interest was promoting paedophilia. Though vilified by many, theirs was a very determined, very public campaign to gain credibility and influence. In 1978, the group agreed to let psychologist Dr. Glenn Wilson meet and study their members. The experience was to become the basis of his book, The Child Lovers.
In terms of personality, they were not obviously psychotic or even excessively neurotic. They were a little bit on the introvert, shy, awkward. Because what was unusual about this project was that it was a group of paedophiles who were functioning in society. They were not yet in jail or being treated by the psychiatric services.
The book suggests, first of all, you say they were happy to talk to you because you didn't condemn them. You say that at that point, at the time of writing, that research shows no lasting harm to the sexual and social development of children. Do you still believe that?
It's extremely difficult to prove that a non-rape encounter between an older man and a teenage boy of 14 or 15 does any very great lasting harm.
We know of the prevalence of suicide among people who've been abused as children. Do you not think that the evidence exists that this is harmful?
Not scientific evidence. You get anecdotal evidence, and you get people who are trying to increase their compensation claims by claiming that they were totally traumatized by being touched up by a priest.
And you don't believe that there was trauma?
I think people come forward for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they have been traumatized. Sometimes they are attention-seeking, and that this is a famous person and they would quite like to be seen as having been connected with them.
Members subscribed to the organisation, often using pseudonyms or just numbers, but it was known they included public school teachers and social workers, all important figures in the drive for legitimacy.
They were an interest organisation. They looked to get their people on the inside in lots of organisations. This could be gay rights organisations, civil liberties organisations, even mental health organisations, so that then they could steer policy from the inside. I do think that they probably were successful in infiltrating a lot of liberal left organisations and publications as well, so that some of their arguments filter out into that whole field in a way which has to give pause for thought.
By 1975, P.I.E had achieved one of their biggest successes, becoming an affiliate of the National Council for Civil Liberties. Whilst affiliated, P.I.E campaigned to reduce the age of consent and against the banning of child pornography. Key Labour figures, including Harriet Harman and Patricia Hewitt, worked at NCCL while P.I.E was an affiliate. Both have since denounced P.I.E. Peter Hain was a civil rights activist at the time.
The people who advocated, in my terms, child abuse, in their terms, free relationships, actually were conforming to the stereotype that the right wing has of that period, namely that this was all politically correct extremism. It was never about that. These were extreme, on an extreme fringe, and it's to the great discredit of some of the mainstream leadership of that period, involved in the civil liberties movement and so on, that they were unable to distinguish between something parading as personal freedom for adults to do what they liked, as against the rights of children not to be abused.
So were you disappointed with Harriet Harman, Patricia Hewitt?
I'm not getting into that.
The current investigation into allegations of a paedophile network in the establishment have refocused attention on the Paedophile Information Exchange. It's emerged that members included Sir Peter Heyman, a diplomat found with child abuse images who evaded jail after the then Attorney General refused to prosecute him, and the late Peter Wrighton, a founder member of P.I.E and convicted paedophile, who was one of the country's most senior childcare experts, who often boasted of his contacts within the establishment. Tom O'Carroll, also convicted on a number of occasions, was chairman of the group.
Most of the members, I would say, were really a mixed bunch, a pretty ordinary lot of people. Like myself, I was just an ordinary guy. I knew Peter Wrighton, I thought, quite well, because he attended our monthly committee meetings and saw him occasionally socially as well. And I gathered that he'd got this quite high-powered job and that he would have met people in senior positions, but he didn't talk about that very much, and I didn't know any of his contacts.
Do you anticipate that there will be well-known, highly placed people who were involved in a paedophile network at the time?
But there may be some individuals, but not a conspiracy. It's to be expected that if there are people who are attracted to children who, I don't know, are bus drivers and teachers and whatever, that there would also be a few politicians and judges. I don't think that should surprise anyone. But conspiracy between them, a little bit doubtful.
Whatever the inquiries reveal, Tom O'Carroll believes this is just a modern-day witch hunt.
But the point is, you only believe this is a witch hunt because, in essence, you and other paedophiles are in denial about the damage you cause. That's why you think it's a witch hunt.
You know, I agree with you up to a point. I think I have been in denial about some cases. For instance, the Caldecott schoolboys. But then, you know, the more you think about the way the power, and I agree with you here on the power analysis, the way the power setup is in some of these private schools, as it was no doubt in some of the children's homes, kids didn't really have any choice.
Throwing new light on the abuses of the past will inevitably, say some, uncover more about the workings of P.I.E around 40 years ago.
I would be very surprised if members of P.I.E were not implicated in this child abuse inquiry. After all, they were out there advocating this practice. They were brazen about it. And so I would be astonished if, at senior levels where they had support, I would be astonished if they didn't come into the picture in this abuse inquiry.
The archive of P.I.E.'s magazine tells part of their story. More revealing still, maybe the secrets held in the memories of the individuals themselves.
Jackie Long. So while Gaza is in flames, attention